form part of this table. And I think it gets to the question that Commissioner Mulvihill was asking. We might want to see this also in a graphic form, but similar to what you did with the police. Well, just to kind of see see it visually, the trends is sometimes helpful than just see numbers. But what it suggests is that the effort, that our expenses are going up, our revenues are either flat or going down, and we have a little bit of a pot somewhere and we can dip into that pot, but you don't have to go out very far for the pot to go to empty. And I think we all agree that even if the pot went empty a year later, the whole concept is not a very good one. We need to have some reserves. And I guess I'm a little concerned that I think there were some pretty good efforts to address this kind of thing in the past couple of years, where we saw this coming and worked pretty hard to cut back on a number of things. It's not fun reducing services, but what do you have to do? And I guess it looks like we're on the same trajectory. We need to roll up our sleeves and continue doing that. Unless I'm missing something.
No, I think you have several things to be doing, and that's always on the table, cutting expenses. Looking for better ways to do it. We're always looking for those suggestions, and we constantly strive in staff, realizing sort of the gun we're under here to do that. So that's definitely one of the key components, is looking at the cost.
Well, I guess, we can call it cutting expenses, but really what that translates to is we as a community have to recognize that it will also be cutting services.
Yes.
Or we have to figure out either alternate ways of paying for things or something.
I would just, rather than pontificate over the past, I'd rather look to the fact that we're also talking about generating revenue as well. We have to look at all solutions, not just the past, by saying, hey, we're going to cut services, we're going to do this. We have to be creative in our solutions. Yes, that's a possible, possibility of the situation, but it's what we do now to decide how we increase revenues in the city, how we build the city in new directions, and the smart choices that we make in what we're doing here in the next couple of months. This is, I use this, and I know, Chris, you're going to kill me when I say it, but it's a moving document in that it's going to be balanced. We're going to find a way to balance the budget. That's our job and our obligation to do so. So, I think it's a good warning factor to see, okay, this is the direction in, and we're going to have to come up with creative solutions, but we will do that as a commission. Commissioner Maxwell?
Thank you. Steve, would you go back all over the beginning, I think, to the slide that shows contribution to CRA?
Sure. It's not just the CRA.
It's like the first or second slide.
There it is. Yeah. So 563,000. If you're looking at the pie, it has a different number on it, and that's because it includes some other non-departmental numbers.
I wasn't going to get you on that one.
Okay.
That's not where I was. That was not where I was going. Good.
He was ready for you.
He was ready for that.
If you give me a hard time, we're going to go there. The number, I'm looking at the CRA required contribution line, and I'm going to, I don't want to use the word assume because somebody out there is going to use that against me, but I think what I'm seeing here is our contribution to the CRA has been reduced because the property values have dropped. And if I understand how the CRAs were established and how they're supposed to function, we're not even at that benchmark that we started at when the CRA was established so many years ago. Is that correct?
Well, I can't actually speak to that in terms of the value. When the CRA was established, I believe in 1989.
Right.
I'm not sure what that taxable value was, but you are correct in the way that the calculation is done, in that there is a baseline in 1989 of what the taxable value within the CRA district was. CRA then is the beneficiary of increases in that value over and above that base rate.
And does that number reflect the increase over the base rate?
Yes, that is the millage rate that you
So that's the fruit,
generate.
if you will, of their efforts. And the mission of the CRA was to bring up the values in the area to the property, so the property value would rise and whatnot. Is that correct?
Well, yes, I think you can say that. It's a function of assessed value.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you for that clarification. The other thing is, again, we got to remember, our property value's dropped another 6%. And this slide's been going on for a number of years. Real estate experts will tell you that I think most everybody's bottomed out. I hope that we have bottomed out. But I would say if we took another 6% hit, that's not a good thing. And I don't think we fared very well compared to the rest of the county. I think we were even lower than most of the county. Most of the county is starting to creep back up.
Some areas, we're hoping this is the bottom.
Oh, I hope so too.
Steve, where did we predict that we were going to be at this point before this report came out?
We actually predicted originally a decrease of 3% based on what the property appraiser had to say sort of during the year last year. And then we got a little excited because the property appraiser put out a number that showed that our value had actually increased. And then, unfortunately, they found an error in their calculations, so it wound up dropping 6%.
Now, was that factored into the 5-year plan that we had shown previously?
No, 3% was factored in, not 6%.
Not the, not, okay, and not the
Is it-
increase?
Right,
Okay.
and 6% is in there now.
I could wrap.
Sure, sorry.
So my point is, our property values are sliding a little more. Hopefully, this is the end of the train ride, so to speak. And obviously, we've seen that utilities between the franchise fees and whatever are paid and the enterprise funds, that 50% of our general fund is coming from utilities at the end of the day, which is all the more reason why it's so important that we start finding a way to deal with the utilities. And I'm kind of affirming where you're going at, city manager. You know, we're in a classic Mexican standoff in this city. On one hand, we have property values that are flat and dropping, okay, and we're desperate for investment into the community. That potential investment, though, is being somewhat stymied, I would say, because of our reputation with respect to utilities. Folks can take their investment dollars, whatever that pot may look like to them as an individual or as an organization, and they can look at Lake Worth and say, I can spend $100,000 in Lake Worth as an investment for inexpensive property as the property values drop, or I can go across the line to West Palm Beach or Green Acres or someplace to spend $100,000 and not have to pay the utility costs associated with that. So it is really, really important that we focus on finding a creative way to start aggressively attacking and putting in place a model, a roadmap, if you will, that's going to take us from where we are now and perception that is related to where we are now, and really putting us in a different place in the next 3 or 4 years. Because if we do not do that, if we do not develop a roadmap today, this budget cycle, then I think we're going to miss an opportunity in terms of investment. I don't think anybody out there expects us to be able to, pardon the pun, flip a light switch and drastically change the cost of utilities, and then they're all going to flood into the city to invest. However, I think that if we have a roadmap that is clearly articulated, I think that the investment community will take a look at Lake Worth today in anticipation of where that roadmap is going to take us in the next 3 or 4 years. And I think that's the point that I want to make. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate Commissioner McBoy's comments too before. I just want to make sure that, I know philosophically, whatever, let's get through the actual budget right now. We can move through the numbers themselves, and when it comes time to making decisions, I would prefer to do that, but I'd rather not, again, pontificate on.
Okay, I wasn't going to pontificate, but I would like to look at a slide.
But there'll be no pontificate. No, I'm kidding.
I might respond to my colleague here with just an idea. Can we move forward to, I can't remember where it is. It's a table of numbers. Next one. There we go. I think we got it. Is that the right one? Yeah. Well, I guess so. The enterprise contributions, which might be a different one, but basically, what Commissioner Maxwell was saying is that our ad valorem, our property taxes, out of our roughly little under $30 million budget that provides all our services, only about $5.5 million comes from property taxes, whereas about 10 million, almost twice that, comes from largely our electric fund, for paying our, right.
Yes, sir.
And I guess what I wanted to try and do, if there's somebody here in the room who can help us do that, is translate that 10 million back down to a monthly bill. And then, and somebody, I'm gonna think it out loud and somebody correct me if they know, but if I remember right, and I'm just using it because I remember the numbers, I think the conservation fund generated on the order of $1 million or $1.5 million a year, and I think that reflected a monthly cost of between $1 and $2 for 1,000 kilowatt hours. So if those numbers are about right, and I'm hoping that there's somebody in the room who knows them, if I'm recalling about right, that 10 million corresponds to about $10 a month for 1,000 kilowatt hours. Does that sound about right? Is it in the ballpark?
It sure sounds good, but I can't really say, Commissioner
Well, the
McCoy,
thing-
that's actually correct. I just don't have those numbers, and I don't have of course, the way charges are done by kilowatt hour and so on, the blocks.
Right,
Change
yeah, it
and so
changes a
on.
little bit, but it's not a big change. But I think that is pretty close to the right ballpark. And because, 10 million sounds like a big number. And all of us don't like the idea that we pay higher electric rates here than people do elsewhere. But I think it's important to actually, and maybe this is a request to staff, is that for our next budget meeting, maybe someone could bring back to us for a bill in one of those 3 blocks, what is the monthly charge that people are paying that goes to that 10 million? Because I think it's going to be on the order of about $10 a month.
I think if you look at it another way, the electric fund has a total revenue of around $60 million, and the electric fund's portion of that $10 million is about $6 million, so about 10%. So,
Yeah, and that's in the order of magnitude, that's about right. So it's helpful to think about that although none of us like to pay more for electricity, if one thinks about at $10 a month and, taking care of the cemetery, making sure we have good police, fixing some roads, having some recreational programs, does that seem like we're getting value for money? It's a funny way to pay for it, that we pay for it as sort of part of our electric bill rather than our property taxes, but nobody's very excited about paying for it in property taxes either. I mean, nobody